Okay, I get that. All of us. My eyes, I want to sleep as well. But here are some of the stories for you. Local airlines are seeking 40% fuel surcharge. In fact, some airlines are down in tools, shutting down. We'll talk about it ahead on the show. Also, unveiling of the NNPC Limited. I hope we have time to talk about that. And the CBN's new interest rate. You can be part of the show today, sending messages to us. WhatsApp is one of the platforms, 0809-444-0981. We're streaming live on YouTube, Smooth 981 FM Lagos. If you're on Twitter, just send us a tweet at Smooth 981 FM. Rotus, let's get it started.
All right. Where do we begin? Let's begin with the monetary policy rates.
Right.
The CBN yesterday increased the rates to 14% from 13%. It was increased from 11.5 to 13% back in May. The monetary rate is the rate at which the central bank, loans funds to commercial banks, and that's used as a base rate for loans from commercial to the real sector, to the rest of us. So the reason why they raised the benchmark rate, they said, is because of inflation. I think about 6 members of the Monetary Policy Committee, 6 members voted to increase the rate. So it was a majority of the committee wanted the rates raised. And so it's, they mentioned inflation as the reason why at their last meeting in May. And this is the same reason here again. Now, the thing I've always said that, look, once you put out language that you are chasing inflation, you now get into a cycle where each time inflation continues to rise, you're almost forced to continue to hike rates. And hike the interest rates, you make borrowing more expensive. So if you have a loan that you're currently servicing, whether you're an individual or a business, you'll get a letter from your bank telling you that I think most of the loan facilities are like floating rates, right? So they'll tell you that because due to prevailing economic conditions, your rate is increasing. Your deposits, the interest you get on your deposits, that's supposed to rise as well, but that doesn't happen as much as the loans go up. So loans are expensive. And so when you think of the wider economy, if you continue to raise rates, you are making borrowing more expensive, and you start to constrict aggregate demand, and things could get a bit tougher for the average person because loans are already high enough. But another thing is you're trying to also attract funds to your securities. When you raise rates, the return on investment they're supposed to get on securities, that's you imagine that on fixed income, money market rates, those will rise as well. And if you're able to attract funds to your market, that increases demand for your currency, which makes it stronger. But again, inflation is the primary thing they're chasing. But the issues, even the central bank governor, Gordon Emefiele, in his press release, or rather press conference interview he had with the press, he said that there are legacy issues that have existed with respect to inflation before the war in Ukraine and everything else, supply side issues, structural issues. So I'm not sure if this is going to do much to try to head off inflation. It's still behind. Inflation is 18.6%. The benchmark is 14. So,
Now, I recall that they had a retreat over the weekend ahead of this NPC meeting this week. The meeting started on Monday, and on Tuesday we saw this shocking announcement. Many people had hoped that it would stay stable at 13%, at least for 2-3 months. But I mean, it just seems like the way it's going, next month we might also see a new rate announced by the CBN. What again was the essence of all that retreat, enjoying themselves over the weekend to come and increase this thing yesterday? Well,
yeah, I mean, the thing is, the direction of monetary policy now is dictated by inflation. So as you've said, we would like, if depends, what will happen at the next NPC meeting will largely depend on the next inflation figure that we receive for July. So we'll go in August and we'll see what happens. But I think it's still going to continue to rise because fuel costs are, diesel, other, cost of food. Those are two, those fuel and food will be primary factors that pushed inflation upwards. So we'll have to see what happens at the one inflation figure. They're all eyes on the next inflation figure for July to see where.
Let's take the next story because the messages are coming in already.
Okay, real quick. PC, the petroleum company, the state oil company is now a commercial entity. It was in Abuja by President Buhari, a new logo, NNPC Limited, which is now a commercial entity that hopefully in a few years will list shares on the Nigerian Stock Exchange. By a commercially profit-driven entity, it means that the money it sends to the federation accounts, it means that under recovery, all those things are supposed to end, because now it has shareholders that it is beholden to. So I mean, it was a very elaborate ceremony. Asha came to perform. I think Dari, or what's his name, performed as well. It was incredibly, I mean, I don't know who calls artists to perform for an unveiling, but that's a different story. But anyway,
they are now a company, Rotus, so they're not working for the federal government any longer. They can decide to behave like other companies in Nigeria.
Yeah, but they're still it's still majority owned by
the
of Nigeria. The federal government is still the major shareholder. They are not, honestly, nothing much changed. Mele Kyari was the group managing director of NNPC. Is now the group CEO of NNPC Limited. Rules for everybody. It's the same management. Nothing's changed. So
exactly
how they operate commercially going.
But the logo has changed that list.
Yeah, well, very pretty logo. The logo has changed as well. Yeah. So we'll see how things go. It would be nice to see us be able to buy shares in that company.
Right.
If things work out. But the corporate governance has to be on point. They have to start making sure that they are running their books correctly. We'll see how things turn out there.
All right.
Aviation.
Aviation, yes, let's quickly
talk
about
so
aviation.
We were supposed to touch on that yesterday, but there was even a new development again, even yesterday. The airline operators of Nigeria put out a letter saying that essentially the A1 jet fuel is still a major problem for them. They're asking for, there's a 5% fuel surcharge that they are saying that they want to have waived. At the same time, they want to have a between 20 to 45% fuel surcharge passed on to you and I, the consumers. When you buy your ticket, there are extra taxes that
right.
So they want that fuel surcharge to be applied so that they can make more money. Although they can't, I don't know why the letter said they can't raise prices. You can raise prices now. If fuel is going up and your operational costs are going up, you should be able to raise prices to try to compensate for that.
But if they also increase, by 25 to 40% on consumer surcharge, aren't we going to be seeing more hikes in airfares?
We will. And looking at the additional costs that are added onto your ticket prices, I think it might discourage some people from flying. But then when you look at where the roads are, they can't really travel by road or rail. I think this will, if things go up, you'll see what we're doing now. Virtual discussions will increase, and people just say I'm flying, and you'll see more, Zoom and Cisco WebEx meetings going forward until things turn out.
Increasing the fares really, will it also improve operations? Because there were tweets and reports of people spending up to 11 hours at the airports. Sadly, air contractors announced they were going to shut down operations. Are we going to see improved service across the aviation sector, the airlines?
Yeah, so the aero contractor situation is temporary, and it's just passenger services that their maintenance operations will still continue.
And they were struggling for a while, Rotus.
Exactly. They've been on life supports, because they were taken over by AMCON and everything. Well, hopefully, if they raise prices, because by raising prices, you're giving them more room to breathe, to make more money. Because right now, they're not able to fly as many planes because the fuel is so expensive. They are trying to ration planes and use less planes for more flights. So if they raise prices, if that gives them room to breathe. But I fear that raising those prices might have an adverse effect on whether or not people choose to fly.
Okay, let's run through with the messages. A lot of questions accompanying the comments this morning, Rotus. We begin with that of Jonah. It says, inflation we're facing is mostly cost push. Do you think that raising rates can help to curb it?
So that's what I said. I'm skeptical because even as the CBN governor admitted, there are legacy issues that predated the Russia invasion of Ukraine, those farmer insecurity affecting farmers being able to get food, their produce from the farms to the markets, the bad roads, the lack of power, storage facilities for perishable, so on and so forth. Those are the issues that you have to address to increase supply of food and bring down prices.
Chidi is taking this conversation from 0 to 100. He says, as far as I'm concerned, CBN is still quite conservative with rates. CBN still believes that the inflation is not as a result of excess money supply, because one will expect rates to track inflation. We were expecting something around 18%.
Oh, wow. Well, that would have been a real shocker if they had done that.
Yes.
Your loans. Wow.
Go from 13 to 18. My goodness.
That's 500 basis points. I think that's huge.
All right. So Joe comes in and says CBN cannot be punishing banks with increased CRR for not lending enough and then making it difficult for the banks to lend by increasing the MPR. God help us. Moses says CBN increases MPR when the inflation is cost push as against demand pull. This increase won't mop up liquidity. Money no dey people hand before. And Benga Komu, with a lot of messages for us, says, so how much will the NNPC pay in taxes that will equal to what is given to the federal government before? Whatever the NNPC, whatever the MPC is doing, how much effect does it have on food prices? Again, is it true, Rotus? Many middle-class Nigerians are relocated, leaving good jobs here for a life abroad. How much impact will that have on the workforce here? Given the way our elite have used the NNPC as a cash cow, I'm wondering how much independence it will really have. That song by Asha, Fire on the Mountain, was apt for that occasion. But do the leaders there know the impact of the song and how it reflects the reality of the ordinary Nigerian? Benga come in with that one. Okay. Yeah, go ahead, react, and then we'll take one more.
Yeah. So he is thanks for all the messages, and they are very, very much on point. As far as middle class Nigerians leaving for other jobs, we still have a high unemployment issue here in Nigeria. So if you're able to find a better job, better life overseas, go ahead and take it. You have employment offered elsewhere in a foreign currency. You really should. But there's still a large unemployment issue here, and we have to get as many jobs as we can to Nigeria, especially youth. Youth unemployment plus underemployment is a big problem.
All right, let's just squeeze this last one in from Isaac. Says, weighing on the aggressive stance of the CBN. I remember during the early days of this administration when inflation was rising, the CBN kept following the body language of President Buhari, who was trying to juggle both exchange rate, volatility, and inflation. The CBN refused to increase rate, and interest rates kept rising. The effect was simple. Exchange rate volatility accelerated, and here we are at a point where exchange rate is very high, and this has impacted inflation, and FPIs are nowhere near the country. An effect of the rate hike will be that government securities will likely print at higher rates, and the country's debt profile likely increase.
Yeah, and we haven't mentioned exchange rate so far. The airline operators of Nigeria brought it up. It's prevalent everywhere. The pass-through effect of the exchange rates on inflation, that's very, very correct. And it's impacting a lot of industries right now. They even in their letter, they mentioned the fact that exchange is at 630 naira to $1 now. And that is just, if you are maintaining planes overseas in dollars, it really, really impacts your profit margin. So it's a big issue.
It seems almost everyone listening is contributing to the conversation this morning. Daily comes in, can NPC just forget raising rates? Have they looked at G7 leaders' investment of $6 billion, the method to curb world inflation? That's what we should be looking at rather than, increasing from 13 to 14%.
Strong points.
But we need to go. We need to go. Thank you very much, Rotus, for always doing justice to the business stories every morning. We look forward to tomorrow at 6:30 with you, Rotus. Thank you very much. Let's keep the conversation going on Twitter at Rotanquote. Tag us in Smooth981 FM at 7:30 this morning. We'll bring you freshly pressed. My name is Pepple. Good morning.